Batman's still stuck in his nightmares, Immortal Hulk meets the woman he loves, and a few new number ones from Marvel. What's up, everybody? I'm Stan, and welcome to Detail Comics, where we go over comics in detail, but let's just dive right into our preview picks. First things first, I'm going to talk about some independent titles, and then we're going to get into the rest of the books from DC and Marvel. Up first, I want to talk about Deadly Class number 37. While it has been a hit TV show for the Sci-Fi Channel, with a lot of really accurate recreations of the actual series itself, Deadly Class continues from Rick Remender and Wes Craig, and overall, it is one of the best books that comes out on Image. Even though they are kind of inconsistent because Rick Remender has to bounce back and forth between like 4 or 5 different titles that he's writing, it's always one that I recommend you guys check out. Then from Dynamite, we get issue number 2 of Red Sonja, so she's going to be continuing her role as the Queen of Hercules, and I actually have a review for issue number 1, so if you guys want to catch up on where the storyline's at before you jump into issue number 2, make sure you check that out. I'll put a little card thingy up in the corner so that way you can do that. Next from Dark Horse, we've got to talk about Black Hammer 45 number 1. So it's not Black Hammer number 45 number 1, it's Black Hammer set in the age of 1945 inside the universe, and that's the first issue, so it's going to be dealing with a little bit more depth that Jeff Lemire is creating for his Black Hammer universe from Dark Horse. Overall, Black Hammer has been a phenomenal exploration of what you can do to create paradigms or similar structures to current characters, and I'm just really enjoying everything that comes out from Lemire and his Black Hammer universe. One that I think that we should all check out. Then we can head over to Archie Comics, where we get Blossom 666 number 2, and overall, Blossom 666 continues with this kind of horror-themed Archie storylines where we had Jughead the Hunger, we've got Vampironica, and now the Blossoms are the subjects of Satan? They seem to be devil or like Damien kind of people. Overall, I really like the way that this one's going, and I've just really been a fan of the way that the horror genre has kind of invaded Archie Comics in a really cool way. So if it's something that you guys think that you might be interested in, I would suggest checking it out. To finish things off, let's go back to Image, where we get Die number 4, and Die is a book that I might have to talk about in a little bit more depth because Kieran Gillen and Stephanie Hans have been doing a fantastic job on this story that's dealing with, well, an odd game of Dungeons and Dragons. It's really cool, the visuals are fantastic, and it's a book that I would recommend you guys going to check out if you're a fan of really solid storytelling, especially if you have that kind of like lost in a foreign world, sucked into a video game kind of vibe. If that's something that appeals to you, this is a comic you should be looking at. Now that we're done with indies, we can talk about Deathstroke number 41, where we actually get the Terminus agenda, or the beginning or the lead into the Terminus agenda, where it's going to kind of crossovers with, with more Teen Titans stuff. So Christopher Priest has been doing a fantastic job on Deathstroke ever since the beginning of it, and when he gets to kind of like work with Adam Glass on this kind of crossover, we'll see where he can really take the character. Deathstroke has always been really relevant to the Teen Titans storyline, so I can't wait to see where they kind of go with this one, if it's more of like a refresher, or if it's like the Judas Contract, or if there's one of the other crossovers that they've done. But Deathstroke versus Teen Titans, hey, maybe I'm in. Over at Marvel, we get Conan the Barbarian number 4 from Jason Aaron. We do get a brand new artist for this issue, but Mahmoud Asrar is going to be coming back to it a little bit later. But overall, the fantastic Asad Ribic covers are still really great about this series. And again, it's one that I haven't really been following along with, but I've been hearing some pretty good things. So if you're a fan of Conan the Barbarian, after we got Savage Sword of Conan number 2 last week, we're going to get Conan number 4 this week, and then all kinds of Conan over the next few months. But it's one that, if you like the Barbarian, it might be a book for you. Then in the Sandman universe, we continue the dreaming with issue number 7. Again, Sandman. I've got to keep talking about it because if I don't, I'm just going to forget that it's even out there. And the Sandman was such an impactful part of DC's Vertigo line, I just don't necessarily have the time to catch up with where all 4 books are compared to how everything else is going down inside the Marvel, DC, and independent universes that I follow along already. It's just, I can't dedicate nearly enough time, and I always found that Sandman read better as a collected edition, so I'm thinking that it's going to be the same thing with these ones, but if you guys really want to keep up on it, it could be a really good spot for you. Another book that would read really well collected, but is just great as individual issues, is Adventures of the Super Sons, which gets issue number 8. Remember, this is a 12-issue series, or maxi series, and it takes place before Jonathan Kent gets aged up by Brian Michael Bendis, which is a good thing. We get to maintain the dynamic between Damian and Jonathan Kent, and overall, it's a really good repository for fun and everything that was good about DC Rebirth, which seems to be kind of going by the wayside every single issue that we move forward. I don't necessarily know how much relevance we're going to have in the future, if we're going to be able to tell more stories with these young heroes, but hopefully we can. I like what Peter J. Tomasi's doing, and I really want him to kind of continue with that. However, speaking of young heroes, we have Champions #3 coming out over at Marvel, written by Jim Zub, and we're continuing with a kind of one more day scenario where, well, Miles Morales has made a deal with Mephisto, and we know how Spider-Man and their deals with the devils really turn out. The saving of Miss Marvel and Vision was a real big focal point for Miles Morales in the first 2 issues of this kind of reboot of the series, and I'm interested to see how it actually impacts and evolves over time. If it's just a quick fix that happens inside the first 5 issues, it's going to be completely useless and kind of a throwaway storyline. Hopefully it can last a little longer than that. We also have Young Justice #3 from DC, and while Young Justice #1 introduced us to Ginny Hex and Teen Lantern and a few different characters, we've kind of gone to Gem World, and we're getting Amethyst and the interactions with Tim Drake, Red Robin, and all this kind of stuff that's going on. And I mean, Young Justice felt kind of boring in issue #2, so I'm holding out hopes for issue #3. I really love Patrick Gleason's art, and I love the way that he renders these younger characters, and we probably are going to get more Connor Kent in this issue, so it could be fun to watch along for that. However, if it doesn't really do anything interesting with the character soon, I might not necessarily have such sweet words for it, considering how other series from Brian Michael Bendis are going. It's just, you gotta give me something, man, and you're slowly losing your ground. But one book that is picking up steam is Uncanny X-Men, which gets issue #13, as Cyclops and Wolverine start to coagulate and bring together this group of odd X-Men, which are going to try and, well, hopefully save the world. The X-Men are no longer around. The mutants have all been bamfed away by Nathan Gray, X-Man, Age of X-Man, huge thing, miniseries all over the place. But Matthew Rosenberg's telling us a story about Cyclops and Wolverine, 2 people that have been gone from the Marvel Universe for quite some time, or at least outside of the spotlight, so I'm always on board to see what this issue is going to be bringing, and I think that you guys should be too. Next, we can talk about DC's Green Lantern #5, which continues some cosmic craziness brought to us by Liam Sharp and Grant Morrison. So Green Lantern and Grant Morrison just means you have a license to do whatever you want outside in the universe, and the question is, where is it going? I don't necessarily know, and no one can ever really predict where Grant Morrison's going to take his stories, but they're always going to be kind of intriguing, and you can trust that there'll be multiple different layers that will envelop and unfold over time. It's some sort of cosmic conspiracy that will be somehow revealed in episode or issue #37 or something like that, if he sticks to writing the book that long, but hopefully it's going to be a really cool cosmic adventure for Hal Jordan. Another book I have to check out is Amazing Spider-Man #16. I'm pretty sure that I said that last week too. This is 16.HU, and 16.HU with this Greg Land cover is going to be dealing with Black Cat. So it's going to be a tie-in written by Nick Spencer, but it's going to be like Ian Cabello on the art, so instead of Ryan Otley or Humberto Ramos, it's going to be dealing with kind of like an offshoot, but it's still tied into the main Hunted storyline. This is going to be how Black Cat reacted to the reveal that Peter Parker is Spider-Man to her, so that way she regained all her memories, and it should be pretty interesting. I'm just hoping that we don't get too sidetracked with dealing with everybody else around the storyline and not focus enough on Spider-Man Peter Parker. Hopefully these .HU episodes or these .HU issues can really deal with these ancillary characters and aren't necessarily mandatory for the storyline, so that way Spider-Man can do some web slinging and save the day. On a sad note, we're going to have to talk about Green Arrow #50, and Green Arrow #50 from Jackson Lanzig and the rest of the team is going to be the final issue of Green Arrow Rebirth. And there's currently no plans, so that we've seen inside the solicitations, to kind of restart the Green Arrow storyline. So it feels like we're losing another part of DC Rebirth. And DC Rebirth's Green Arrow was one of the best introductions to a character that you could possibly get. Overall, the rekindling of the romance between Oliver Queen and Dinah Lance was just so good. You know, getting the Arrow and the Canary back together was fantastic, and then you had some really great work from like Otto Schmidt and Juan Ferreira, and it was such a good lineup for this series, and to see Jackson Lanzig get the start and then have to write the conclusion in the same time, it feels like a little bit of a disappointment, but hopefully there's new plans for Green Arrow in the future, and DC will be unveiling them sometime soon. Also, big plans are up for Avengers #16. We are going to continue this Vampire Civil War story arc because it's kind of a placeholder in between this and the War of the Realms, where we continue on with like the Loki Celestial and all that kind of stuff that's going on. So Avengers is going to play a big part inside War of the Realms, but just not right now. So we'll just soak up as much Blade revolving Avengers lineup as we possibly can as we're dealing with this kind of conversion of the Ghost Rider and all kinds of wicked craziness that's going on before we dive into the deep cosmic pool of War of the Realms. So if you like vampires and you like Blade, go check out Avengers. Also, as we're diving into other kinds of craziness, Justice League number 19 is going to take the Justice League into the 6th dimension. With Justice League number 18, we saw the collaboration, the corroboration, the conclusion of Brainiac and Lex Luthor's kind of storyline, where they are now on the same page regarding their faith towards the release of Perpetua, and they are opening up a portal. They turned that doorknob, and we're going into the 6th dimension. So, Jorge Jimenez has been doing a ton of work on this issue, and it has been looking phenomenal if you've been following his Instagram, so it becomes a kind of issue that you can't miss. Another comic book that I feel you can't miss, though, is Immortal Hulk. And Immortal Hulk number 14 brings us Miss Ross and reunites her with Bruce Banner, who's been kind of doing a lot of crazy stuff since they last spoke. But there's a plot afoot, and while they embrace in some sort of passionate kiss at the introductory point of this comic book, it might not be what everybody thinks. So Immortal Hulk has continued to be one of the best books from Marvel, even though the circulation isn't quite up there with Amazing Spider-Man and some of these other books. But overall, it is fantastic, and you cannot pass these books up. It's just a really, really good story, and one that I wholeheartedly recommend. A storyline that gets a little bit more iffy on the recommendations is Batman, and I'm a real fan of Tom King. I'm a fan of Tom King's Batman, but the storyline of Nightmares is kind of confusing. And when we get into Batman number 66, then continuing on to about Batman number 69, Batman 70, we're going to see Bruce Wayne start to fight back against his nightmares and the trap that we supposedly think was set by Bane. We're not necessarily 100% sure, but we're going to get some interesting crossovers. We're going to get Bruce teaming up with Elmer Fudd again with Lee Weeks in a different issue. We're going to get a view at the bachelorette party that Selena Kyle would have had with her friends, and then we're going to get some other stuff. So there's interesting different facets of Bruce Wayne's mentality that are going to be explored inside Batman 66, 67, 68, 69, until we get to the whole Thomas Wayne storyline inside Batman number 70, and, you know, kind of march on to Batman 100. But I can see how you guys are getting lost in this one. I don't know where Tom King's going, and I don't know if it's a good thing, but I gotta keep the faith, or, well, or I don't. However, I can keep the faith with Avengers No Road Home number 4. Avengers No Road Home has been a really fun set of issues. We've been going weekly, and overall the writing of Jim Zub, Mark Waid, and Al Ewing has been fantastic, and Paco Medina has been doing some great expression work and character work on the different characters inside these books. It's really been lighting it up when it comes to this series. The continuation, as we kind of get this conflict that's brewing inside the realm of Nightmare as well as inside Omnipotent City, is really kind of cool, and we get to see Hercules throw down with a bunch of the other Avengers inside this kind of grand library of knowledge. I just really like the pace of it. I like the action. I think that it's a really good series to get into, and it's going to collect really well. It's independent of a lot of stuff inside the Marvel Universe, which is completely fine, and that means that it's not weighed down by other actions of individual characters. The team that they chose for this one, solid. And of course, if we're talking about solid comic books, you need to talk about Doomsday Clock. We get Doomsday Clock number 9. It's been delayed and then delayed and then delayed, but overall, we're getting closer to the conclusion. We've already had solicits teasing that we're going to find out the truth behind DC Rebirth. We've seen the emergence of, I mean, fucking Dr. Manhattan. Like, there is so much that is going on that still needs to come to a conclusion, and who only knows the answers except for Jeff Johns, and he's just holding them back, and Gary Frank is doing a really good job on the art, but it's taken a really long time, and whew, frustrations about Doomsday Clock. Yeah, those are bubbling up real quick. But Doomsday Clock is one of those can't-miss comic books. If you can get both covers, you know, they're going to be telling you very different stories with those cover pieces of art, but I'm excited to see where this one goes. I just wish it came a little bit faster. Now that we're done with the ongoings, we can talk about the brand new number 1. So Age of X-Men gets Prisoner X, where we learn about Bishop and Beast and a number of other different people that have been detained by the extremists for a variety of different actions. Whether it's forbidden love or something along the other lines, we're going to see how they start the rebellion against Nate Gray's X-Man and his utopian society full of mutants, and how that continues to develop and leak into the other crossovers. If you've been entranced by Age of X-Men, this is going to be a must-pick-up kind of book, because it gives you probably an early insight into the resistance and rebellion around this utopia. But if you're just kind of like there for an X-Men book, go pick up Uncanny number 13. Also for new number 1s, we get Meet the Skrulls number 1, which is dealing with a Skrull family. It's kind of like The Americans on FX or that kind of stuff, where you've got these undercover agents that currently have to pass off as humans, but we know that they're Skrulls and they're working against all the other humans, and how they interact with individuals and how they kind of keep from giving themselves up. It's really kind of a Cold War spy type comic book, which is something that we haven't seen in quite some time. So it's a refreshing kind of thing that I'm hoping to look at and see a really vibrant story. I don't necessarily know if we're going to get it, but I'm excited to see what it brings forward with a new #1 on Wednesday. Another new #1 from Marvel is going to be Domino Hotshots #1 from Gail Simone and David Baldeon. I think that's how you say his name. Again, I butcher all these names, but it's going to be combining our favorite lady characters from the Domino series. We've got, you know, like Diamondback, and we've got Domino, and then we've got a whole bunch of other different people that are going to be coming together to create this female assassinistas setup. And overall, the art for Domino was fantastic. I really enjoy Gail Simone's writing, so I can't really miss this one. It's only a 5-part miniseries. It's going to be continuing the storyline of Domino, so I'm in for that. I'm in for 5 issues, and if it continues to be consistent like the series was, I don't see how it can go wrong. Then to finish things off with new #1s, we get another Marvel title, and that is Cosmic Ghost Rider Destroys Marvel History #1. So we see Frank Castle using his Time Stone shard to go back in time, and he deals with a whole bunch of different stuff regarding time, and he goes to the most famous parts of Marvel history. He tries not to fuck it up, or maybe he does fuck it up. We don't really know what's going to go on and how it's going to impact, if it does impact the greater Marvel Universe. But we do know that we're reaching the point in time where Cosmic Ghost Rider is going to jump a space shark and be no longer any kind of cool after he was inside the Thanos storyline. But hopefully Donny Cates can continue to write the character pretty well inside the Guardians of the Galaxy book, and this one doesn't tarnish my opinion that much. But for a gimmick character to get these many books, you know, he might be going down that Gwenpool route where it's just like, yeah, no, I'm totally down with that. Or he might not be. But I want to know what you guys think. Is there anything that you're picking up that I'm not? So hit me up in the comments down below and let me know what I should be checking out and what you're excited for. As always, if you like what you see, hit the like button. Don't forget to subscribe to get more news, reviews, and commentary on comic books, comic book movies, comic book TV shows and games, and anything and everything inside the world of comics.